I'm Zoe DeVito. I'm Grants and Contracts Coordinator with Via Mobility Services. I just want to share a quick tip about Zoom. At the top of the videos, you'll see an option for gallery view or speaker view. Try toggling between both of those and see what feels best.
Okay.
Hey everyone, good evening. Namit Singh here from Microgrid Labs. Can you guys hear me okay?
I know it.
Hey.
Oh. Hello.
I see you there.
Yeah, I met you in Denver. This is Rhonda. Epic.
Oh, hey.
I only met you once.
That is surprise. I wasn't expecting you. How are you?
Good, very good.
Good, excellent. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you as well. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Look, Brian's joining us.
Welcome, Brian. Welcome, Elena.
Thank you.
I see Natalie there. Bill. Oh,
Right.
let me actually take care of my dog first.
He's going to go walk the dog. He'll be back in a minute.
Yeah, right.
Announcer still.
Hello, this is LeRoy and Tina Romero from Denver, Colorado.
Hi.
Hey, LeRoy.
Hello, LeRoy.
We're very good friends with
Jim Trahan and
Jim Trahan and I forget her name. What's her? Oh, anyway, strong supporters of our organization, Sharp, and we're very good partners with Via Mobility. So
Thank you.
We'd like to see your face. Hey, Doug.
Hi, Elena.
Hi, Elena.
There you go. There's Brian.
So I think we're going to, we may get to the part. Oh, hi, Doug. If somebody hasn't introduced themselves, you could go ahead and do that. And then we'll probably ask everyone but the speakers to mute themselves. And we'll start the presentation soon. Elena, you want to introduce yourself? You're on mute there. We're not getting any sound. Oh, well, that's Elena Wilson, everybody. She's with INREL and CU Boulder.
Oh, excellent.
And she was supposed to do the first song too.
Yeah. Now you just danced. You just danced. We'll hum. Thanks.
Well, I'll introduce myself. I'm Frank Bruno. I'm the CEO of VIA. Originally from New York City, since we seem to be saying that, and live in Boulder, Colorado, South Boulder.
Nice. Hi, Katie. Want to unmute?
For everyone who's just joining us, you're welcome to unmute your speaker. You can do that by moving your mouse down into the lower left corner of the screen. You'll see where it says mute, and there will also be a microphone icon. If you click that and click it again, that'll toggle it on and off.
Well, we see who the expert is here. All right, so I'll introduce myself. I'm Rhonda Courtney, and I'm with Eco Engineering. And we've just recently formed some alliances here, and we're looking to get to work with your teams. Anyway, I'm in Opelika, Alabama, which, do we know where that, look, we got a car.
Yeah.
I know where it is.
That is.
Is that near
Right
Jackson?
next door to Auburn and about an hour and 10 minutes from Atlanta, west of Atlanta. So it's nice to meet you all. And I'm going to call Brian Roth out because in an email invitation today, he's like, oh, yeah, sure. Rhonda always likes to celebrate. Thank you, Brian. So your turn.
Rhonda, any excuse for a happy hour? That's what I said. I'm Brian Roth with Eco Engineering. I'm out of Cincinnati, Ohio. Yeah, and here to support OC and Namit. So happy to be part of this. Excuse my dress. It's 7 o'clock here, and so you're going to hear dogs barking
kids screaming, so I'm going to stay muted. But yeah, at 5 o'clock, my wife put me to work, so I had to put on yard clothes.
Nice. So we've got at least 2 from out of state online. That's
Well,
nice.
so I'll go next, I guess. I'll complete the eco-engineering trio here. So Doug Golden with eco-engineering, also here supporting Namit and OC, and glad to be a part of this and joining you guys. I am from another state yet. I am from Houston, Texas.
Welcome.
So you have
Welcome.
3 different states represented outside of Colorado.
Nice. So I'm going to go ahead and get us started. I just want to welcome everybody. I'm really pleased that you joined us. We're hoping this first Thursday we're planning for it to be an ongoing event that we'll hold the first Thursday of every month going forward. We want it to be a forum to talk about transit issues and keep the community informed about what VIA is doing. I think, as many of you know, we have a 0 emission for transit goal at VIA, and that really requires a lot of work to reach and achieve that goal. So, so the topic for our meeting today is our Microgrid Infrastructure Project, and we're really pleased to have Namit Singh from Microgrid Lab Solutions, who is going to be our partner in develop. Thank you.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers. To talk to us, to join our panel. We're going to have 3 speakers today. Bill Patterson, who is VIA's CFO. Natalie Stifler, who is VIA's Director of Operations. And Namit Singh. The format is going to be, we'll talk about 3 general areas here. Bill will talk about some of the history that brought us to this point where we are doing the Microgrid Infrastructure Project. Natalie will kind of talk about what the project deliverables are going to be and what the next steps are for the project, and how the Microgrid project fits in with the city, county, and state's environmental goals. And then Namit is going to talk about some of the basics of what a microgrid is and how they can be used, and what we hope to achieve with VIA's microgrid project. So I'm going to turn it over now to Frank Bruno, our CEO, and he's going to talk to us a little bit. And welcome, Audrey. I just saw you joined us. Good to see you.
And I also want to say a shout out to, we had a few new people joining us as well, but I want to say a shout out to Esther Concha, who is on our staff, but living and working for us in El Paso. So it's so good to see you, Esther. But I just want to take a couple of minutes, not too long here, so we can get to the program. But I want to, first of all, I want to thank everyone. This is really exciting. We did a quick little check-in this morning to make sure we all got on Zoom together and back at VIA, and it was just exciting just to even do that. But this crazy time that we're living in also gives us this opportunity to connect in a way that this would have been really fairly hard to do. We probably wouldn't have thought to do it. So I'm just thrilled that we're all together like this. And Heidi, good to see you. And so it's just great to be here. You know, as Lisa was saying, VIA's got several different goals and missions. We've been around for over 40 years as a nonprofit community transit and paratransit provider, and that's evolved over time in terms of the type of transit we've done. But the goals of always being in touch with the community and the region's policies and programs and initiatives and standards has always been important to VIA, and that's been a lot of fun. I was originally Boulder city manager when I came down to Boulder 17 years ago. Got to know VIA right away and joined the board not too many years later and served on the board for 7 years. And it gave me an opportunity to really see how we connect with the university, with the business community, how important that is to our continued prosperity and our environmental and economic prosperity and health. So it's very exciting that we have in the last few years really taken leaps in our environmental sustainability goals, and done so only with the help of several partners that are on our group today. And really want to give Bill a big thank you for really leading that effort for us. And there's other parties that Bill will probably thank, especially some of the local governments. But we're in a great environment with university, with NREL, with the businesses that are in the community and outside of the community, that we can bring this together. And we're excited about this next phase, which is going to be really a lot of fun, a lot of work, challenge, but it's going to take us further up the path where we need to be going to be that local transit provider that has that completely green ethic. And that's where we're heading. So, and doing it together. So thank you, Lisa, and thank you, everyone. Lisa, you're muted.
Go ahead, Bill. That's all I had to say. It was a long wait for not much.
That's what I thought you might say. Thanks, Lisa, and thanks, Frank. So as long as everybody was, we have some great out-of-state folks here. I'm a Florida boy myself, although many years ago I came out here to University of Colorado, and like many others, I just never left. So they're stuck with me here.
Where from Florida, Bill?
St. Petersburg.
Oh, I was born and raised in Clearwater.
That is right there. So
yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's
how about that. How about that? So I wanted to just give a little history of where we're coming from on this initiative. As Frank said, we're a more than 40-year-old agency, and after about 30 years, the agency was in a position where they didn't have enough space, and they needed a building and raised the money for a state-of-the-art facility. And it's just a beautiful facility. If you've never been here, it's just lovely, a beautiful site, the best view in Colorado, I think, and that's saying a lot. So the building was built to a standard that would probably make it a LEED certified building if we went through the process of that. The agency just didn't choose to do that economically, but it's a very nice building as far as light, energy efficiency, and it was built at the time with about 100 kilowatt solar array that feeds the grid and reduces our energy cost. But as we started kind of several years ago, now we're talking about 2011, the building opened. 2017, we were in a position where the investor-owned solar panels, we were able to buy them out by our contract, and we wanted to do that and own the energy ourselves. So in a partnership with Boulder County, the city of Boulder, we got 2 grants there to purchase the solar panels, generously provided. And at the time when we were talking to city sustainability folks, they thought, there's somebody we know that could help you to become even more sustainable and renewable. And we started talking to them, and this was a company called POSN, P-O-S-E-N, a local Colorado company that had some interesting ideas about microgrids. Now, we did not know what that meant, but we started learning about microgrids. And that's what a lot of this discussion will be today, and I'm going to leave that to Namit to talk about. But just coming down the road, we got additional funding from the Department of Energy through the city, and then POSN themselves helping to fund our first kind of resilience project, we called it. So part of that was getting the solar panels purchased, but then the other part was installing a natural gas generator to make our facility such that we could run off grid if we needed to. And we thought about even making that our primary source of power. We ultimately did not do that, but we have that resilience now where when the grid goes down, that generator kicks on and we keep running. The other part of that was putting in a small little microgrid into the facility. So we added some solar panels and ran it down to an inverter downstairs, and then the power backup into our computer server room. And hence, with some batteries and solar power, we can run our computer system for quite a long period of time off grid. So that was just one little small microgrid project. Kind of in that same, maybe the next year around late 2018, we met another local Colorado company called Lightning Systems, who had an idea about converting one of our diesel buses to electric. And after speaking with those folks, they actually offered to subsidize a large part of that project. We were able to take our oldest diesel bus. This is for our HOP service through town, if anybody knows. It's a transit service we run in Boulder, but it's kind of a smaller bus, a 30-foot bus, but it's a city bus. It was our oldest one, a 2004 diesel. They converted it to a full battery electric bus. Now we had some issues at first, but we worked through them over about a year, and today that bus is out on the route. It is totally 100% clean. So we thought that was amazing. We thought that was just an amazing thing. And it's incredible to see, that dirty old diesel cruising around. It was out on the route today. Loved it. But of course, along with that, we had to start installing some charging infrastructure. So we got another grant and put in a 50 kilowatt charger that just runs off our grid feed to charge that bus. Well, now we're coming into, actually, let's go back a little to 2017, even 2016. Lisa Curtis started submitting grants to get funding for battery electric buses new. And over time, we had to cobble together some grants. We got some federal grants, we got some state grants, and we finally got enough grants to order some buses. So here we are in 2020, after starting that process in 2016. We are hopeful that we will have 4 new battery electric buses delivered late this year. Only COVID will stop that now. We're scheduled for December delivery. It's possible there's some delays to that, but we will, over the next year or less, have 4 battery electric buses. Well, now we need more charging infrastructure. And do we have enough electricity here on the property? And what about the next group of buses that come after that? How are we going to charge those? We have a dream of being able to charge those buses with renewable energy. So not only are they clean burning, really no burning buses, they're clean buses on the route, but they're also powered by the sun. And how, what percentage of renewables could we put into our buses? So hence microgrid project. Can we build a microgrid at this facility that would power those buses and charge them, as well as potentially powering our building as well? We have the resilience of the grid plus generator plus renewables. So that's where we're looking. We've gotten yet another grant, this time from through CDOT, our Department of Transportation, who administers federal and state grants for transportation in Colorado. And we have a grant to do a microgrid planning for that, we have hired Microgrid Labs, and through a process of that we put out an RFP, and Microgrid Labs won that RFP, and we're thrilled to work with Namit. We had actually done some work with him previously with both Namit and a group from the university that he was working with, and he was kind enough to bid on this project, and we liked their bid. So I think that's enough out of me. I would like to turn it to Natalie Stifler, who's our Director of Operations, and she's been a critical part of the team that's working on this project from the VIA side. And Natalie, I'll let you take it from there.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Hi, everyone. So I think Bill did a good job of covering kind of our infrastructure today. I'll just add a couple things on the kind of planning side. As Bill mentioned, we have secured funding for 4 new electric buses, and that's in addition to the one that was converted. So hopefully by the end of this year or early next year, depending on the COVID delivery timeline, we'll have 5 electric buses. And the City of Boulder is our partner in delivering HOP service. It's service provided by them, and they contract that operation with us. And as Bill mentioned, for those that aren't in the Boulder area, it's a fixed route. It's a fixed route service. You all went away, so I'm thrown off. But so we are, the city is working on getting, they're being really aggressive about funding to, their goal is to convert the entire HOP fleet to electric. And that does put, I think, a little bit of pressure on VIA to be ready to deliver a fully electric fleet. The HOP fleet is a total 15 bus fleet. So the city, we have 5 of the 15 buses that will be electric. And the fleet will also expand with increased service. So we'll probably get to about a 17 bus fleet, 5 of which will be electric, that we have funding for. The city also has gone after funding for 4 more electric buses, and they were awarded that by through the VW settlement money just in the last month. So we will actually now, we technically between the city and the VIA have about 9 buses worth of funding. What Bill mentioned is we have to have the infrastructure to do it, and that's the piece where we need to be able to accommodate charging 9 electric buses, even up to 17 or 20 electric buses, and that's really part of the problem. And his wonderful team will be helping us solve, I think, over the next 6 to 12 months, will be to figure out what type of infrastructure at VIA's facility will we need to be able to support a fleet all the way up to 20 buses and maybe even more. I mean, I think, again, for those that aren't familiar with VIA, we have about 190 vehicles in our fleet. Those aren't all VIA's, but the ones that are at our Boulder facility in VIA, that's about 80 to 90 buses. My math is probably a little off, but pretty close. That's what we have. And so if we think about phasing our infrastructure to be able to charge an 80 to 90 electric fleet way into the future, there's a lot to work on here. So that's really exciting. And I think I'll jump into the next couple of questions. So one of the questions that Lisa posed was, what are the project deliverables for Namit's team and the work that they're doing with VIA? And it'll really be a collaborative process with the City of Boulder and partners that want to be involved in this work. I think it's exciting work for really our whole region. We really will be a leader in this area. And so I think that's what's part of what's enticing for Namit's team, is that it's a leading the way type of project. So project deliverables kind of the main components, and Namit will get more into this because he's the expert and his team can add to it, but the main components will be kind of what we foresee as like a high level vision for VIA is that it'll be a solar canopy that, that charges our electric bus fleet. And then we have a battery energy storage system that stores energy so that in a time where we can't connect to the grid or someday down the road don't want to connect to the grid, we will have a battery energy storage system that can help us charge our fleet without, that would be 100% renewable and not, you know, to Excel's grid. So next, to me, that's kind of the main project deliverable. I mean, I think what you'll like to know is that at the end of this process, we hope to have plans and engineer drawings to be able to go build a project. We'll obviously need to go after funding and be really aggressive about that. And we're really lucky in that MGL has experience in going after funding for these types of projects. So they'll definitely be there to help us along the way. And so next steps really are kicking off the project. I think that one's pretty simple. We awarded the project to the MGL team a couple of weeks ago, and Lisa Curtis is working diligently on getting all of our paperwork squared away with CDOT so that we can start the project. So we're excited for that. And hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll be able to have our kickoff. Oh, there was one more question. I know that I can try to address. I think others can chime in. Like there are definitely folks on this call that aren't in the speakers that I know can speak to this better than I can around city, county, and state goals. Needless to say, you know, this project definitely is going towards meeting the city of Boulder and Boulder County and the Colorado Energy Office climate goals. I won't get into, you know, I did a little bit of research and kind of outline what those goals are at each of the levels at the city, county, and state level. But I think, you know, renewable energy is a big goal for the city, county, and state. And the more we can do to power our fleet from electric energy and maybe even, you know, hydrogen powered fuel cell energy. We recently talked about that. The more we can go in that direction is we're achieving the city, county, and statewide goals. And I'll let, you know, others feel free to jump in. Bill, if you have anything to add on the goal piece, please do.
I think it's good to just to state that. I mean, our goals are their goals, and we do want to meet, you know, the city's goals are very aggressive and forward thinking, and, you know, truly, if we could get this done by 2030, have at least our hot fleet fully electric by then, we actually would be on schedule to do that based on the vehicle replacement schedule that we are on right now with our funding. So that would be certainly an achievable goal by 2030.
Great. I'm going to, Namit, do you want to go ahead and take over?
Absolutely. I'll do that. Can you guys hear me okay? Excellent. Thank you so much. Again, Namit Singh here from Microgrid Labs. Thank you, VIA, for this opportunity. Really, really looking forward to getting started and seeing this project through, because we really feel that this is a very important project, not just for VIA, but overall the industry and even beyond, because getting away from diesel-based operation and getting into electric, and then supporting electric by solar-based generation, that probably is the best option, or the best that we can do. So very excited to be part of this project. Our background is we focus on microgrids and doing the initial feasibility study design, and also support during the implementation of microgrids, focusing on campus and even higher city level microgrids. So as Bill mentioned earlier, we've been in touch for, I would say definitely more than a year now, but 2 years. Okay. Yeah. Close to that. So yeah, have kind of tried to figure out that what VIA has been trying to achieve on the microgrid side, on building resiliency at their facility, and also gradually bringing in electric fleet and electrifying as many large vehicles and maybe medium duty vehicles as well. So having said that, the definition of microgrid can be anywhere from a small supporting something that is supporting a few loads, the critical load. That's the perfect example of the existing VIA microgrid, which is supporting some critical loads. So the way it has been designed by POSEN is that it has its own solar generation, which also stores it. So we haven't looked at the detailed numbers, but technically that would be completely serving these loads based on solar generation, and then having backup for several hours as well in case the electricity goes out, in case the grid goes down, so that those critical loads can be taken care of. So that has been operational and has been successful for a few years now. Now the point is to expand it to support the whole building, and then potentially as you bring in electric vehicles, the demand for electricity goes up, the requirement for resiliency on that front goes up, and also, as mentioned earlier, the potential of having solar-based generation further offsets the greenhouse gas emissions that come from diesel. So in today's date, it's expected that if you just switch directly from diesel, and I see Chuck is here, he would be able to. RMI is perfect as far as answering those questions. But even switching from diesel to an electricity grid that has a good mix of coal-based generation, even that still has a lot of benefits as far as it comes to reducing the greenhouse gas emissions. And then taking the further step down, that if you try to generate your own electricity, clean electricity by solar, then that further offsets it. And I think, again, there has been a lot of debate on this front. There has been a lot of research done, and the results, as far as I know, just switching to pure electric and then having the grid supply it is still much better than burning diesel. So that is one part. And then, of course, by bringing in solar based generation and storage, you can also plan to build your infrastructure in such a way that can act as a resiliency hub for the city, for other facilities, for other critical loads. And VIA is already, I think, the second responder for city of Boulder. So that facility is extremely critical for the city and the citizens locally. So it would be great to build in resiliency there as well. And as we move forward, so one fun fact I would say is that anytime you electrify about, let me recall the number, about 3 to 4 electric buses, that brings in as much as load as the existing VIA building. So the moment you add 3 to 4 buses, you are talking about doubling your load. And as Natalie mentioned earlier, if the goal is going all the way to 15, 17, 20 buses, and then the cutaways that you operate about 75, 80, 85 of those, so then you are talking about a completely different scale. So the purpose of this project is to be able to estimate that as you will keep electrifying more and more buses and other light duty vehicles as well, and medium duty as well, how would it impact your local electricity infrastructure? And at the same time, that perfect discussion that can we at the same time keep bringing in solar based generation, so that we can keep offsetting, not just from shifting from diesel to the grid, but completely over to solar, and potentially also keep building resiliency at the site. So that moving forward, because there are plans of, I won't get into the city discussion and the municipalization discussion, but as we move forward, there is a lot that can be done here. So the purpose of this particular project is take it stepwise, and at the same time, for us, the responsibility will be to lay out the different phases, that even if we are talking about 5, then 9, then 12, then 17 buses coming in, that phase it in such a way that we are able to do good design and modeling for every step, and moving forward, that at what point in time, engineering wise, what are the things that are needed, financially what are the requirements for different projects, and then potentially also help via in applying for grants and maybe get grants. So these kind of projects are something that the whole country is trying to do. There are several transit agencies that are trying to do these kind of projects. So it is, as I mentioned earlier, very important for VIA to be successful, but at the same time, also very important to create a prototype or a framework for other transit agencies, that this is how you do it right. Because there have been so many projects that have been done and unfortunately have failed because of lack of planning and lack of initial design and consideration. So this would be a great project where we together do it right and show it to everyone that this is how to do it. So again, I'll just stop right there, and extremely privileged and thankful for having been selected for this project, and really looking forward to working together and making this a success.
Thanks, Namit. That's very nice. We're happy to be working with you too. Do we have any questions? Would people like to raise their hand and ask a question about either Namit or Bill or Natalie? Chuck, welcome to the call, and Trip.
So if I may just introduce, so our team for this proposal was Microgrid Labs and OC Nelson from Light Edison. They are an expert in solar system design and installation, and carport solar is one of their specialities. So they are one of our partners. And then Trip Hyde from Hyde Engineering. They are experts in integration of large size storage and then advanced control systems. So according to our understanding, this is the team, or these are the different skill sets that would be needed in order to successfully complete this project. And that's the reason why we have brought this team together. So extremely, again, very happy to be working with these guys. So big shout out to OC and Trip.
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks. I see a question from Debbie Noel. You mentioned others around the country are pursuing the same goal. Is there one or two comparable VIAs in terms of size and financial structure?
Yes, so Debbie, what's happening so far, what we've seen is everyone is trying to figure out that how to do these kind of projects, right? So there are transit agencies, and a lot of it is happening because of the mandates that are being put by states and cities and even other countries, but let's just talk about US. So states and cities. So because of that, what is happening is there was some funding available from Volkswagen money earlier. So transit agencies, they might have a larger size eventually, that some of them are operating 200, 500,000, 2,000, 2,500 buses, something like that. But at the same time, the starting point for everyone is that let's start with 1 or 2 buses, figure it out, then expand it to 5, figure it out, then expand it to 10. So what we are talking about here is, even at this point in time, there are several transit agencies in the country that have procured 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 buses, and they have been operating it for about a year or so to try to figure out if there are any issues, or what are the things that what are the issues that they may get into. So from that point of view, yes, there are a lot of transit agencies, and school districts are another one, which have procured 1 or 2 buses and operating it exactly what VIA has done over the last year and a half, that got 1 electric bus, operated it. Now there are 4 more coming in. So then you'll operate and try to figure that out. And California has been on the forefront of it. So the state has mandated, and hence all the transit agencies have to electrify. So after, I think their goal is that after 2029, there will not be any more, everything after that has to be zero emission. And after 2040, there are absolutely no diesel vehicles on the road. So these are the kind of goals that have been set by cities and states, and that's what is moving things forward.
Yeah, if I can chime in, Debbie, there is a transit authority that comes to mind, the San Joaquin Regional Transit District in California, that recently put out a proposal, or an RFP rather, that we responded to for helping them develop their microgrid roadmap for solar plus storage plus electric vehicle bus charging. So that was released just in the last month. So if you wanted to go and look at another transit district that's thinking in very similar way, I think they had a really nice RFP that sort of, did a good job describing how they're thinking about the future.
Yeah, and this is, yeah, we can share that San Joaquin, was it transit agency, or is it called transit agency?
Regional Transit District, yeah.
San Joaquin Regional Transit District. And that is actually has become very common now, that earlier it was just all these RFPs were just talking about the charging infrastructure and buses. But now, at least in California, this is what is happening, that the whole thing comes with microgrid and solar-based generation included in the RFP. So they have figured it out that without that, you just cannot completely rely on the grid. So more and more of these are coming out, and California, as I said, has been leading. But now even on the East Coast, so New York State has mandated these rules, Massachusetts has mandated, and now recently Chicago also put in some mandate. So it's happening around the country.
I would add to that, a lot of the transit agencies are really working with their local energy providers to get the power. That's been kind of the model up till now, working with your grid power provider to get enough electricity, or utilizing the electricity you've got to your facility. This is kind of taking it a step further, where we're looking at, we're going to be maxing out our grid feed with these 5 buses. So we need to get to a point where we can generate some of our own electricity. Really, the first people in Colorado the first agency in Colorado to have electric buses is RTD, and they lead the way, of course, in the state. They got 36 buses, and that's a tremendous amount of electricity need. And as it turned out for them, they were working with XL on it, but they're utilizing so much electricity that the cost of it is higher than they would have paid for diesel buses. So part of the model for electrifying your fleet is the buses themselves are more expensive, but theoretically you're going to save money on the energy, because electricity should be less expensive than diesel fuel, and you should have less maintenance on an electric bus because there's just a lot fewer moving parts. Right. And systems. I think the maintenance part is working out for RTD. The energy part is not working out. The diesel would have been less expensive. So all in, their fleet is more expensive to run. We would like to try to avoid that and keep our, we know we're going to pay more for the electric buses. Can we operate them over the long term? And it's a long payback period, but can we operate them over the long term at a lower cost? And in the end, you recover the additional cost of the electric bus. So that's not our primary goal, our primary goal is to cut emissions, but our secondary goal would be, does this model work financially? Because as Namit says, this is something that other agencies are going to be looking at over time. And is this something that can be not only renewable, sustainable environmentally, but also renewable, sustainable financially? And that would be a win-win.
Yeah, and the same thing, even the operational efficiency of electric vehicles are much better than diesel. So it is expected that by just switching from diesel to electric, you should be able to at least half your operating costs. So, so yeah, that is a promising number, but the challenge is how do you achieve it? So that's what we're gonna try to help and get in this project.
So we have another question from Chuck Ray for Namit. You mentioned projects that have failed or did not live up to expectations. Are there a few common points of failure? Good question.
One of the main things that we have seen is people getting into the projects without really understanding what they are getting into. So the expectations are very high that it is, as I was saying earlier, that it is supposed to reduce your operating costs by 1/3 or maybe, or at least by half, right? So now the challenge is that is dependent on not doing a proper modeling and assuming that, and RTD is a perfect example of that, this is my electricity rate and my electricity rate is not going to change by switching over to electric. And that is what has not been modeled considering the electricity tariffs. And that is what has caused this to happen at RTD. The other thing along the same line is that in today's date for diesel-based operation, you come back and you can fill in diesel at any time in the day and the cost of diesel does not change, right? But the cost of electricity changes every hour, or it can change every hour. So it is very much dependent on how you are charging it. So if you are charging 2 buses at one time, your electricity rate will be different as compared to if you are charging 10 buses or 20 buses. Again, coming back to that point, RTD is a perfect example, right? So these are the few that we see that what you need to do is you need to plan your expansion. You need to do the right sizing and right modeling for every single thing that is involved in the project and grow accordingly. So that is what we see, that not doing proper planning and at the same time uncontrolled charging is what has caused these really high charges, high costs. Does that answer the question, Chuck?
Chuck, you're muted.
Yeah, Namit, that does answer the question. You were also mentioning microgrids, and I was just really curious about the assembly of pretty complex, the different components that we all have to bring together,
right?
Whether that's automated or manual. So I just didn't know if there were a couple of learnings maybe that we could take from those other projects.
Yeah, one of the absolute main things is that the moment you're talking about electrifying your buses, then you are getting into the details of electricity and how the utility provides it. What are the rates? What are the structure? What type of electricity? Is it generated from solar? Is it generated from somewhere else? Is it stored? So then basically it just opens a completely different realm of details that you need to look into, and all of those things. Microgrid is a perfect example. That can you bring in solar? Can you bring in storage? What happens when your fleet is completely electrified and electricity goes away? Then are you going to stop your operation? So for transits, that is important. The moment you're talking about commercial, let's say trucks that are providing transportation and shipping. So how do they take care of it? So all of those things put together, bottom line is the moment you are talking about electric buses, you are getting into electricity. So then it becomes a completely different game to play into. And all of that comes into picture.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thanks.
Brian, looks like you are trying to say something. I see Brian's lips moving, but you are muted. Brian Roth.
Sorry, I was talking to my wife.
Oh. Okay, sorry.
Did you want to know when you were coming to dinner?
Cooking
You
dinner.
want a salad? I said, no, there's, I got my camera on right now.
Lisa?
Yeah.
Hi, it's Frank. I just wanted to, I had put a note on there. In a community that's home to the University of Colorado at Boulder, the flagship of the CU system, CU has done such a great job capturing solar with its rooftops throughout the campus, and it's that leadership and certainly the city's interest and the county's interest, a lot of support from the state of Colorado, the energy office certainly, and having even the local political folks that we had, our mayor is now our former mayor is now part of the governor's cabinet. These are the kinds of things that I think are really helping us have the momentum, as well as having the right people that we see here that are on this project with us, and the combination of CU and REL so close to our home is just all these benefits that you don't always get. When we think about some of the other transit agencies, transit entities, I feel really good about our potential to get this done, as Namit said, the right way and with the right motivation, and come out at the other end and not say, oh boy, we really didn't think of that. So I just wanted to mention that and say thank you.
Thanks. Well, if we don't, as I said in the beginning, this is going to be a monthly event, and if anybody has any suggestions or wants to present a topic that might be of interest to this group, just send me an email or send Natalie an email. We're really very grateful that everybody attended, and our out-of-towners too. Thanks. I did. We have quite a few. We've got quite a few. There's Miriam. Natalie's Miriam.
Yeah, I have an extra who joined. Oh.
Good to see the crew. Frank, did you want to kind of wrap up?
Yeah, I just, again, you just said it. I mean, that this is the, we're going to be doing more of this, and the topic, I love the fact that it's kind of like the old salon kind of idea, where we're going to have multiple topics and things that are of interest, obviously, to what VIA is doing and where we're heading, where the community is heading too. So I think that's very, very, I just love the idea that we can do this sort of thing and do our day jobs too. And right now, for all of us, our day jobs are really quite odd. It seems like it's almost like a 24-hour cycle now. So that you took the time, even despite that, is very meaningful. And I want to thank everyone for doing that and seeing everybody. It's not the same doing a phone call tree. This is not quite as good as all being together, but it's really quite nice. And again, I just wanted to say thank you for everyone joining us, and